This is the first guy on the list I feel like you're gonna have to like really educate me on. I don't feel as up to school on this guy as the first 11 guys on the list. So sell me or don't sell me on him. Go ahead.
I'll tell you, actually, and of all the guys we're talking about in this tier, if there was one guy that was going to leap into that top 6 and be a true viable one, I think it's Greg Dulcich. He's got all that freakish athleticism that you want, that we've already talked about doesn't truly matter at the position. He does have that speed, though. And why it might matter for him is because Sean Payton comes over, and at first he was very lukewarm. In fact, his exact words were, "I'm lukewarm on our tight end room." But since they've gotten out to OTAs, Sean Payton has said, "I've really begun to get a good vision of how I want to use Greg Dulcich." He highlighted him as the player that stood out to him the most and said, this could even potentially be the Joker role in our offense. And then he likened him to Jimmy Graham, to Jeremy Shockey, and then even went as far as saying that Joker role has extended to running backs like Alvin Kamara, Reggie Bush, and Darren Sproles. Now, Greg Dulcich is not any of those 3 running backs as an athlete or anything of that nature, but that is some good company, and that has always been with Sean Payton, the move it around, sometimes in the backfield, sometimes in the slot out wide. That is a hugely valuable role for one of the only guys that actually seemed to get a rapport with Russ. He was out for the first, I think, 6 games of the season, so he was out for a lot of it, and then when he came back, he was a tight end 1 for 50% of his games. He still ended up finishing top 7 in air yards despite only playing 10 games on the year. So I know even with only half the snaps, only in 10 games and finishing that high, I think Sean Payton is absolutely the mind to maximize this type of athlete, this type of versatility. I could really see him just being the one guy in this group that blows up and leaps into the next kind of tiers. I think there's a good ceiling to him that these others don't have.
All right. So
he goes late too. He goes after Dalton Schultz.
Right. Like, you drop down this low, like, you should take a stab at this guy.
And I think right now his consensus is like tight end 18, tight end 20 type of range. He's going around 150, 160 in underdogs. So I have him a really whopping much higher than the expert consensus right now because he's one of the only guys at this type of level that you could see really ascending. That's how I feel about him. He's become the next, I keep saying Dalton Schultz, Darren Waller. Number 4 on my highest owned tight ends has quickly become Greg Dulcich, who I had none of early in the offseason when he was getting the lukewarm comments from Sean Payton. Now that I know Payton's bought into this guy and developing his vision for him, I'm back. I'm all in.
Number 13 on the list, Dalton Kincaid, who has been referred to as potentially the best pass catcher in the group.
And that's of not this whole group. This is of his rookie class. He was the first tight end.
I was just like, really?
No. But honestly, he could long-term develop into that guy. I just drafted him in our RSJ rookie draft on Monday. I'm a huge fan. I took him at pick 10, and I was very pumped. I have Waller in that league, and now this is going to be my future behind Waller once he's out. Huge fan of Dalton Kincaid. A lot of people call him the big slot. Well, that's great because that's exactly what they need with Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie and all these other guys gone that really just kind of flubbed it up. The Bills then go and trade up. They made sure to go and get their guy in Kincaid, 6'6", 4'6", 40, huge, uses that frame really, really well in the red zone. So yes, we've seen it take a long time for rookie tight ends in the past to translate, but when you're into this offense where they live in the red zone, I think this could be a 10 to 12 touchdown type of guy. I'm a huge fan of Kincaid, and they've already talked about how they're moving him. You talk about the big slot speculation. Early OTAs, that's exactly where he's lining up, all over the place, getting a good rapport. Josh Allen citing him as somebody he's very, very excited based on what he's seen so far in these early practices. Yes, you got Dawson Knox, who is a good touchdown scorer, who has an established rapport here already. But of the two, I prefer Kincaid, even if they're going to constantly be nibbling at each other. Give me the better overall freak at the position, the younger, exciting talent. I like Kincaid a lot.
All right, at 14, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. I mean,
give me your best stat.
You know what? I am going to try to pronounce it. Chigoziem Okonkwo.
I think you nailed it. Chigoziem, I think, is how it's pronounced. But okay. I'm actually not positive myself, but I think it's Chigoziem. Most people call him Chig.
They need to come up with a nickname for this fella.
Yeah, they go with Chig, most announcers, and I think that's what he kind of was referred to as just Chig. So,
okay.
Yeah, Okonkwo.
I like that.
Chig Okonkwo.
Chig.
Yeah, I mean, he's another. I just raved about Kincaid. So I guess that's where you could kind of see where my thought process was 12, 13, and 14 here is looking at those guys that had these real glimpses of potentially being a monster receiving threat within their offense. And Chiggy didn't get used much last year, but when he was used, these citing Ian Hartitz here, who had this great tweet about him, out of 47 qualifying tight ends, he was second in PFF receiving grade, number 1 in yards per route run, number 1 in yards per reception, number 2 in yards after the catch per reception. He was number 2 in targets per route run, and his passer rating when he was targeted was 125. That was number 7. So in terms of a lot of these efficiency metrics for Chigoziem Okonkwo, he checks every single one of those boxes. And then you add in that the Titans are 6th in vacated targets with 199, including Austin Hooper now gone, who was the one guy kind of staving him off. And should he have been? Clearly not. But he just was so misused as a rookie, and the growing pains of the rookie too. So I shouldn't say misused, but he just was about a 40 to 50% snap player. Just when he was out there, he dominated. They also gave up 45% of their inside the 10 targets too, which is where this guy 6'6", big body, freak athlete. I really like the player. I do worry just overall. I think the Titans offense is gross. It's not something I'm trying to buy in on. So where I look at like the Broncos, and it's Russ Wilson, so maybe that's hideous still too. But I do buy into Sean Payton potentially turning that and getting that offense kind of humming. You'll never see a Titans high-powered attack, but he could definitely threaten for the number 2 or so role behind Treylon Burks on the target totem pole. And when he's been used, as all those metrics showed, he has really thrived. So an interesting player for sure.
All right, last on our list. This is where we're going to wrap things up, at least as far as the tiers that we're posting. Number 15, Cole Kmet. I don't hate Cole Kmet, and I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to talk myself into him. I kind of. Well, why don't you tell me your thoughts on him? I'll tell you what I think at the end. I don't hate him.
I might be a little low on Kmet here, and I don't know that I should be. I kind of actually like Kmet myself. And the reason why, the research that kind of is making me feel better and that I want to put him up, I did this for Justin Fields, so I should afford all his weapons the same thing. If you chop off those first 7 weeks where they were not even an NFL offense, whatever the hell was on the field was disgusting.
Yeah.
Kmet did nothing. He was a borderline useless player. But then you chop those out in the 10 games since they finally unleashed Justin Fields, he averaged 12.2 points per game. I mean, that would have been a top 6 tight end last year. He had multiple 20-point days, back-to-back days, and he never was outside your top 24 tight ends. Now, again, it illuminates the position that he was a top 24 tight end with 5.7 points one week, 6.5. He only had 4 double-digit games in those last 10 and still averaged 12.2. So another kind of just detriment to this position overall, a mark there. But on the 12 targets, he still finished as this tight end 7 and PPR points per game. I guess my worry here is just how damn good DJ Moore is and how fast of a rapport those guys are building. Kmet was kind of the de facto number 1 receiver for a lot of last year once Mooney got hurt. So I think Mooney comes back healthy, and then you got Claypool potentially getting himself more involved this year. And then, of course, DJ Moore, as we were just talking about, he might be the 4th at best. So he was doing this decent damage, and decent's really the only word to describe it, as the number 1 guy. I do worry if he'll sustain that with some more mouths here to feed on an already very low aerial pie.
Well, I mean, if you look at what he did in his 10 active games, so you're over 12 points a game. I mean, that's substantially higher than we were talking about Pitts and we were talking about Freiermuth. I mean, that's actually a pretty substantial jump up. I hear what you're saying. I think the reason that maybe I like him a little more than I should based on his actual performance in the situation is kind of the same argument that you were making for Schultz. I don't think Justin Fields is that great a passer. And I mean, and so I tend to always at least kind of side eye the tight end in those situations. So I might be giving him a little extra subconscious bump because of that.
And I think your logic is fine there too. The only counter might be he's also, since DJ Moore arrived, that's become his, like, anytime a play is broken, he just chucks it in DJ Moore's direction. Now we're talking about spring ball without pads, you can't overvalue what's going on there, but their rapport has been so immediate that everybody's just gushing about it. That was Kmet last year. That's probably why he ended up having 12.2 points per game. He did that safety blanket.
I mean, I guess I'm thinking, I think the rapport with Moore is real, and I think Moore is excellent, and I have no doubt he's going to be the number 1 target.
Yeah.
I guess if you're looking for someone to get a consistent workload on maybe dump offs, I still kind of like Kmet for that. So we'll see. I think
good red zone body too. Like
you
he's
could
a
do
big
a lot
boy.
worse than Kmet. You could also do a lot better.
Fourth in touchdowns last year after having 0 his rookie year. He's really kind of evolved into his role. Jimmy Graham was holding him back for his first 2 seasons there. This was his first year without him. He showed he can definitely be a good red zone body. So at minimum, I think the touchdowns will definitely be very viable here. He's playing around a bunch of pipsqueaks. Yeah, I like DJ Moore and I like Darnell Mooney, but those guys are under 6 feet. This is the big body that Fields loves to look at in the red zone too. And I think that division is going to have a ton of shootouts with the Lions improving, with the Vikings. That's going to be a fun division. So, yeah, I mean, I might be a little too low on Kmet. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.